Because I want the children to be focused on their own futures and also at the same time be responsible for what's going on in their hometowns, in the country and in the world, but at the same time focus on getting their futures secure, strengthened, get their lives in order and become more successful and then be able to make a change for lives here and beyond.
Think about the challenges that there are right now in the society, in our community, as with reference to being of Pakistani heritage in the United States, being a Muslim in the United States, and what's happening in the rest of the world. We also feel that we have an opportunity to try and make an impact if we reach out to Muslim majority countries and help some of those countries with respect to the American values and bring them back to some of the parts of the world. So I'm actually privileged to be the moderator for this panel, a group of people who are working within the U.S. administration, making a difference every day, learn from their experience, and be the difference that is needed at this time in this world.
I mean, first of all, like recognize gaps, come up with solutions, and then do it. And so many people stop, much earlier. When they recognize a gap, they get frustrated. When they have an idea, they just expect someone else to do it for them. I mean, the final stage is you really have to say, I can implement or give you the resources to implement this. And I mean, there are endless resources to do that.
When I came to Georgetown in September of my freshman year, I thought, okay, if I can't save Pakistan right now, maybe I can save the Pakistani embassy. So I went to the Pakistani embassy, basically told them that the community hated them because they were not engaged at all. And the embassy told me, how can we be engaged? We have no staff. We're so busy with our day-to-day work and political stuff. What do we do? So it's like, bring in more young people. Young people are in Washington, D.C. They'd love the experience. They can do a lot for you. So fortunately, this person sitting there, a lot of this has to do with luck, was like, okay, fine, we'll try it. So we announced an internship program, and that internship program is going on to this day. So USAID, actually in March, Obama asked State Department, USAID, and the Peace Corps to figure out how to engage diaspora communities. And USAID actually took the lead on developing an action plan for how to do this. And the idea is that diasporas are becoming, they're major stakeholders, they're powerful players in foreign policy. There's 62 million first or second generation diaspora in America today. And remittances are so high. Actually, private giving is larger than aid through governments. So there has to be a way to partner with diasporas for what they know, and then also resources to do development better. I think the Arab Spring taught everyone that people change societies much more effectively than governments do. And people will change, Pakistan and change countries before aid does. So often it's a struggle, I think, waiting for governments to do things. And I mean, people are already doing great work, and it's, just keep spending time figuring out how to do that better, and ultimately governments will be forced to engage. So I'll leave it at that, and then maybe we can talk more in the Q&A.
And it was a pleasure to come to this conference because, first of all, when I was a young Pakistani youth, I never had opportunities like this. I wish I did. I wish I had role models such as those that were here today. In non-traditional roles such as this, all I knew were doctors and engineers, and I knew I didn't want to be any of those. So it was a great opportunity to hear from other people in similar fields and to engage with youth and to learn that there were so many other people that had aspirations like this, and to sort of give them a platform in which to speak and ask questions.
And for me, internships were the key to figuring out what I wanted to do. And as I developed those internships, one of my internships brought me here to Washington, and I lobbied members of Congress on human rights abuses in South Asia. And one of those internships allowed me to work with prominent human rights activist Asma Jahangir in Pakistan. And I thought, I want to discover my Pakistani side too. I learned enough about the U.S. politics, and I'd like to go to Pakistan. And so I called her up and I said, I'd like to go to Pakistan and work with you. And she said, well, what are you going to do for me? No, thank you. And I said, really? I'm offering my services for free. And she said, no, thank you. And I was determined yet still, and I said, I want to go. So I found a way, and I worked for lawyers because I still was going to be a lawyer because, after all, I'm Pakistani and I have to be some sort of professional, so I'm going to apply to law schools. And I applied to law schools, and I found a way, and I did end up working for Asma Jahangir I found a way to work there, and working with going to prisons in Pakistan and meeting lots of women and children in prisons, I was determined that that was the career that I wanted to sort of figuring out how to work with women and children around the world and getting a sense and appreciating the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly that we have here in the United States. I determined that being a regular lawyer was not for me.
This is a story you'll hear from lawyers all the time, that they don't want to work in law firms. And then, like some of my colleagues here on this panel, I decided to move here to Washington, D.C. and pursue a career in the government. The Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at the Department of Homeland Security is the only civil rights office, to my knowledge, in a national security agency. The role of DHS is to protect this country from foreign and domestic threats. And the role of the Civil Rights Office is to ensure that as we do that work, that we don't infringe on the civil rights and civil liberties of Americans. For instance, something that our community might be familiar with specifically. A lot of folks will be going to Hajj in the next week or so. And when you go to Hajj, you come back with Zamzam, right? The holy water. And what happens when you come back with water in a container at the airport? TSA, by the way, is a part of Homeland Security. So what happens at the airport is you come back with this, little bottle of water, and it looks just like water. And the folks at TSA, the inspectors, don't know what it is, and sometimes they throw it out, or sometimes they'll kind of like, oh, it's just water. They'll try to drink it or something later. It's insulting to folks that are Muslims, right? So. We worked with, this was a big complaint, we worked with our staff, our TSA, to train them on the fact that there are Muslims during this time of year that go on a pilgrimage, they bring back something that's called, Zamzam, it's holy water, don't throw it away. Ask them, check with it first, let's get it scanned and get it through the security checkpoint. And we do similar things with other diverse communities, including Latinos, Asian American communities, African American communities, the LGBT community. So back to kind of like the second part, which I think was helpful to me in kind of deciding where to go with my career. There's kind of three things that I would, recommend in terms of thinking about a career in the federal government, or even any kind of career, really. The first is get to know yourself. Get to know your heritage. This is important for us as many of you, I'm assuming, are Pakistani Americans or South Asians. Become familiar with where you come from. And after you've done that, get to know others. And then the third thing I would advise is for you to take risks. Again, none of the people here are probably here just because they did hard work. They also took a lot of educated risks.
People talk to me all the time about getting jobs in DC, and that's kind of a rule. You have to start with an unpaid internship here. Get your foot in the door. And by the way, and I know everyone can't do an unpaid internship, there are excellent resources. MPSN, the Muslim Public Service Network, has a house in Washington where kids can come and live pretty subsidized for the summer while interning. And actually my first job on the Hill was doing energy, environment, budget, and taxes. And I was a straight foreign policy person from college. That was all I was ever going to do, but I took the job. And within 6 months, I moved into a foreign policy job. And that's a very, very common story.
Another way to get into government, for instance, are fellowships. I mean, those you can apply while you're in graduate school or undergraduate, and those are another way to get into government quite easily. So apply for those fellowships as well. Those are another access point.
In terms of, networking is extremely important. In fact, there's no figures on this, but I would say that a very large percentage of the jobs on USA jobs that are posted, at least for the State Department, the people who are posting those jobs, they already have someone in mind that they want to end up filling that job. And it's because either that person has been an intern in their office, or that person, or that job is to be filled by someone that has worked with those individuals or that office before. But having a professional network is extremely important. A lot of professors end up coming in and out of government as well. So if you're interested in potentially working you should also try to keep in touch with some of your professors and teachers that work on issues that you're very interested in.
I would add network and hallway reputation in government. It's very small. The NGO and civil society world also. I mean, people do ask about you, as Ursula said. Yeah, people have someone in mind, and they're not shy about picking up the phone or asking, going down the hall and asking about you.